We should be.
We're live. Let me check your channel.
Yeah, just let me know if we are good. While we're waiting, I've just launched a poll with one question. So please take a look and love to hear your answer. So Tati, can you see us on?
Yes.
I think we can. Okay, let me just turn down my. There we are. Hello to everybody who is watching live on ONYX Pages. Thank you for joining. All right, so if you're just coming in, please, hello, welcome. Please note that there is one poll question for you. Thank you, Gabby, to answer while we're waiting for people to come in, and we'll wait for a few more minutes. And again, hello to people who are joining over YouTube on ONYX Pages. Hello, thank you for joining. Okay. I'm gonna just check my email to see if I have any emails from people. No, okay. Okay, I'm good with starting. Tati, are you?
Sure.
Ari, are you?
Yes, let's go.
Okay, all right, so can you please share the screen? Okay, so hopefully that's gonna work out. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Octavia E. Butler Slow Read. Really happy that we're here today. It is March. We are down the path. We have read Parable of the Sower. It is the last series by Octavia E. Butler. And so this is a pretty special day to be talking about Parable of the Sower. And a special day in our slow read, a momentous day maybe. So thank you for joining us, and I'm really looking forward to our discussion today.
And so we will start with our dedication to the amazing and intelligent Octavia Estelle Butler. You wrote for freedom, yours and ours. We honor this when we read slowly, luxuriously, and collectively, exactly as you had imagined. We are your legacy. First, we've already done the welcome dedication. We're going to move to the group agreement for the slow read today next. Then we're going to have our book chat. And and Jerry and I are going to share our reflections on Parable of the Sower. And then we're going to go into breakout rooms, and you will get the opportunity to have a conversation with each other, as well as us as your breakout room hosts, for your feelings of the book, what you thought, and get to bounce some things off of each other. After that, we will have our group engagement activity, which will be our sound circle and our group selfies. And then we will end with announcements.
So as we did last time, just want to say thank you to Ari. Ari is going to be our digital alchemist today, and they will be assisting with helping us get into the rooms, dealing with any technical difficulties. So if you have any concerns, please do reach out through private chat to Ari over Zoom, and they'll be able to assist. So thanks, Ari, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So as you know, as we do every time, we are here to create a space where we can talk about Octavia E. Butler's work. And we create that space, we co-create it through our group agreement. So I'm going to take us through that, and feel free to just, react, thumbs up or hearts or whatever you want to let us know that you agree with the group agreement. So the first piece is the centering of the voices of Black folks, Indigenous folks, people of color in this space. The reason why we decided to have a slow read in the first place was to create a space where we could talk about Octavia E. Butler from the perspective of Black folks, of people of color, Indigenous individuals, and to be really comfortable and upfront and bold. So if you are not a member of any of those groups, what we ask is that you are mindful of how much time you're taking up in the discussions, and also be very, very mindful about how you're engaging in discussions. Secondly, speak mindfully, share space. Some of us are really comfortable speaking online. Some are not. Oops, I forgot to record. My bad. 1 second. We're now recording. So some of us are very comfortable talking about books and ideas online, and some of us are not. So please share space and create space for the different ways that people will communicate. So look at the chats. If you're on YouTube, respond through the chats, and just lift each other up as we all figure out how to navigate having a conversation in the platforms that we're using. Hatred will not be tolerated. So propagators of racism, transphobia, and other forms of hatred will be removed from the discussion. If we notice something, we'll remove you. If you notice something, please feel free to reach out to myself or Tati or Ari. And if we haven't noticed, we will take immediate action. So we appreciate you being our partners in that. And if you are removed, you will not be welcome back to any of the Octavia Butler slow reads going forward. And then share responsibly. So we encourage you to engage with each other and to engage with us throughout this discussion and also afterwards, but be responsible in doing. If you feel like you want to take a photograph or you want to share what somebody else has said on social media, get their permission to do so using private chat, and don't share stories or information without letting people know. And as you know, this is being live streamed on YouTube and also recorded for our archives. And all of this comes from our quote, which comes out of this book that we read over the past 2 months. All that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. We are touching each other and engaging each other and changing each other in this space, and we are being changed. So let's be mindful about that. So if you agree, please just give a thumbs up. If you feel like there are requests that we have of you that you can't agree to, then feel free to watch the replay and take your leave. All right.
At the end of our discussion when we come back together. Make sure that you have your books or your e-reader, your phone, however you took in this novel. Make sure you have that ready because we will be taking a book selfie before we go into our other group activity, which is the sound circle. So the way that the sound circle works is you will say a piece, read a part from the book, and we'll go through, but you want to make sure that you have a sections flag. If you, and I say sections plural because it goes how it goes. But you want to make sure that you have a few places flagged, 2 or 3 sentences or a short paragraph in the book that you would like to read for the sound circle. Please keep in mind that we are discussing the novel, so there will be spoilers. So that's, if you haven't finished it, that's totally fine. But just understand that we will be discussing details of the story in our breakout sessions and when Jerry and I are sharing our thoughts. And then to go along with the group agreement, if you notice something, say something. And Jerry, myself, Ari are here to receive information if you notice or see something that makes you uncomfortable. So let us know.
We are currently reading the Earthseed series by Octavia E. Butler. It consists of 2 books, Parable of the Sower, Parable of the Talents, and I'll just take you through the synopsis of the entire series. One of the world's most respected authors, Octavia E. Butler, of science fiction, imagines an apocalyptic near future Earth where a remarkable young woman discovers that her destiny calls her to try and change the world around her. Octavia E. Butler's brilliant 2-volume Earthseed saga offers a startling vision of an all too possible tomorrow in which walls offer no protection from a civilization gone mad. And this is a near future dystopian America that sets the stage for this duology, which we know she had intended to be at least a trilogy. The next book was supposed to be Parable of the Trickster, and she was unable to complete it. So we have Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents. And for Parable of the Sower, in the aftermath of worldwide ecological and economic apocalypse, minister's daughter, Lauren Oya Olamina, escapes the slaughter that claims the lives of her family and nearly every other member of their gated California community. Heading north with 2 young companions through an American wasteland, the courageous young woman faces dangers at every turn while spreading the word of a remarkable new religion that embraces survival and change. And that's what we're here to discuss today, Parable of the Sower. So now is where we share our thoughts. Spend a few minutes doing that. Tati, can you go first?
Absolutely. Where to begin?
And Ari, can you not share your screen anymore so we can see? Tati, thanks.
Okay, where to begin with this story? Lauren Oya Olamina is one of my favorite characters written by Octavia Butler, mainly because I wish I had the presence of mind to deal with so many of the things that I had going on, which in comparison to what Lauren is dealing with, seem pretty happenstance. They're just regular things. And Lauren is dealing with so much difficulty, so many hardships that we have no capacity for truly understanding because we're not there. And she starts, when we meet her, she's 16 and she's dealing with this, and she's understanding or coming to understand who she is as not just a minister's daughter, but a person who has lost her if she even had it to begin with, her love of the faith, and believes that there is something different, and then developing that on her own, and living off of that, and treating people in light of the ideals that she has created, in spite of all of the ways that people can disappoint you and people disappoint her, and not holding those things against them, looking at how she will alter her relationship with them, but not holding those things against them. And I think Lauren also does an amazing job of taking people as they are and working to understand their situation as much as she can, and not hold things against them. When calamity falls and hits Robledo and the walls come tumbling down, and she knows that she's the one that's had the foresight to know something is going to happen. She didn't expect it to be like it was, but something is going to happen. And the 2 years of practice, ensuring that she had her resources together, not just for herself, but for her family, and being part of a family that partially considers her. That's a whole nother discussion. Like, she's not even fully, completely considered by every person in her family, but making sure that there are provisions that she has set aside for them to take care of them. And then even in the face of losing them, taking those provisions and sharing them with 2 persons from her community that she knew but didn't really have a relationship with either of them. And the one of the chapters after they leave starts with that what they learned on the first day is that walking is hard. Walking takes a lot of your energy. And that's something that she had never had to experience before, but also knowing, and that's one of many things that she comes in contact with that she never experienced before, but knowing that she had to walk through it. She had to work through it to get away. Not and having an idea of going north, but dealing with the pivots that she had to undertake on this journey, not just with the people that she met and brought into her group, but also those around her, having to be mindful of those around her. And then there's the whole idea of hyper empathy. One of the things that growing up in church, my pastor, when I was growing up, used to say is that we are born with a lot of things. We are born with who we are. For me, I was born Black. I was born female. I was born to parents who were my mother and father. So I was born a daughter. And then I became a sister. And then I became a Christian. And then I became a student. Then I became an employee. Like, all of these facets that we have in our lives. And there are years sometimes that we have to make the transitions from one part of our identity to another. And Lauren gets multiple identities thrown at her at one time. Because she goes from being daughter, somewhat of a protector, hyper empathetical person. We're making that a word if it's not, to group leader, group supplier, pathfinder, with all of these things that she takes on and she handles well, and having hyper empathy and making the decision that you have to make for your own protection to end a life, even though you're going to feel it. Like, there are so many mental things mental and emotional things that she tackles that those of us in my age group, meaning me, would not necessarily be prepared to do at the age of 18. So my overall thoughts on this novel is that Lauren sets a standard that I may never be able to reach. But in that standard, there are so many things that we can take away from this. The first time that I read this book, the whole idea of Earthseed brayed and pushed and punched against my own faith base. And there were things about the story and about Lauren that I wasn't able to take in initially because this was the first thing that I read that was like, no God, from a Black author. That's fucking different. So it took a lot for me to, and a couple of, other reads for me to see beyond that and include Earthseed as much as my faith is important to me, include that as something that's very important to Lauren and that Lauren has used in a positive way to shape how she handles and deals with people. So I'm going to stop. I don't know how long I've been talking, but I'm going to shut up. Those are my thoughts. And Jerry, your turn.
Thank you for your thoughts. Thank you always for your thoughts. Okay, I have thoughts too. I've also got a list of these thoughts, of said thoughts. So this is probably the 6th time that I've read Parable of the Sower. I've also read the graphic novel. And so every time I read her work, I try to focus on something different. This time I wanted to focus on what I noticed. That was the thing that was most important to me, is like, what seems most important to me right now, this time I'm reading. And so I noticed a lot of, I noticed the religion a lot this time. I don't think that Earthseed is necessarily a religion, although it gets called that. But I was thinking about all of the references to religion. So I noticed things this time that I didn't notice before. So the concept of being a fisher of men, which is, for me, that's a reference to the Bible, and this idea of going out and becoming a fisher of men. And I translate that into being very mindful about how you're creating community and actually going and speaking to people, connecting with people, sharing a message with people, and inviting them to be a part of something that is being built. And that's very much what Lauren does right from the beginning, right? And I'm going to go all over the place, but that's what she does right from the beginning, right? As we see her start to develop Earthseed, even before Earthseed is called Earthseed, right? It begins as a reflex against what she's seeing around her. She's very, very upset about the hypocrisy that she's seeing in Robledo, the hypocrisy in her family and in her community and in the world. She doesn't understand how the Father God that she has been brought up, expected to worship, would allow everything that's happening, right? She doesn't agree with it. And so while other 15-year-olds might just rebel, she creates an alternative at 15. She started at 12, right? And that's, all of this is very interesting to me. The ages, 12, a 12-year-old Black girl thinking about alternatives, and at 15 being willing to commit them to writing, at 16 being willing to gather people, and at 18 being ready to found the first of thousands, or maybe tens of thousands or millions. That arc is just breathtaking to me, as you had mentioned, Tati. It starts with a baptism and ends with a funeral, right? We start the book with her baptism. We end the book with Earthseed's first religious rite or spiritual rite, which is a funeral. That arc, again, is really interesting to me. I also was moved this time by the idea of like sowing seeds, right? So what are the seeds? Who's the sower, right? If Lauren Oya Olamina is the sower, are the seeds the passages of Earthseed? And is the sowing each time she chooses to open her book and share her idea? So when she first shares it with Zara, and then she shares it with Harry, and then she shares it little by little, are those seeds, or are the seeds the people, or are the seeds something else, right? But there are seeds all over the place in the story. So I found those evocative this time. I was really fascinated by her choices, how she sized people up, how she observed them, what she was looking for out of companions, how she measured trust, how she responded to her own interests in connecting with people, and how she judged people's potential usefulness or trustworthiness as she continued northward. I loved the references to the earth. So I loved the dogs. There were lots of dogs and in the story, and dogs can represent different things to different people. But I remember when I grew up in Roman Catholicism, we were always taught that dogs sometimes show up with saints. And that there's a relationship there. I don't know, didn't look into that, but I think dogs are interesting, and there are many dogs doing different things throughout the story. Loved the moment in the sea when they washed themselves, and the first time that she saw such an open body of water, which for me it felt like a self baptism on the road. And yes, okay, a couple of other things. I'm gonna go faster because my time is running out. But the family dynamics were very interesting. I did a lot of comparing Lauren's way of being in the world with her father. As she broke away, I was really intrigued by the values that she kept from what her father had taught her versus ones that she replaced with her own. Fascinated always by the mirroring of her fractious relationship with her father, and then her lovership with a man her father's age, Bankole. I was like half half ew with them, and that's where I sit with that relationship. And so many things. Adrienne Marie Brown says, you don't get to choose who you end up in the apocalypse with. Like, you're not going to be able to choose. So I thought about that a lot as she walked down the road and met people and decided if they would be a part of Earthseed. And two more things. One, there's a reference here to, a phoenix first must burn. And for the first time, I noticed that right before they arrived at Earthseed, they didn't know if they would get burned on the road. Like they're walking along the road. The fire is on the north side of the road, and they don't want the fire to hop over, and they can only go as fast as they can go. They're injured. She's bleeding. And she's not sure if she actually says, we're not going to make it. And then they do make it together to Bankole's property, but the fire pushed them, like literally pushed them on. And that whole like being tried by the fire, or being purified, being transformed, being the phoenix and emerging from that as Earthseed. That was really evocative for me. And then the last thing is I tried this time to connect bits of this story to other books that she's written that we've read. So Kindred, Bankole's reference to slavery, it's like we're going back 200 years. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Is Bankole our portal to Kindred in this story? Seed villages, Doro's seed villages in the Patternist series, Anyanwu's communities, Mary's pattern, even in Survivor, the different communities there, Lilith, obviously creating community, being under duress. Like there's a theme that runs through all of those books, and also I think Keith is the like epitome of the hierarchy plus intelligence, the very thing that the Oankali were trying to avoid in creating more male constructs. And the way that she responds to Keith and hates Keith and how destructive Keith was, I was like, that's the destruction that the Oankali were trying to avoid. So it's like all coming together. I mean, this is all just in my head. I don't know. But I know that this time reading Parable of the Sower, I was really, really, really moved by her brilliance in a story that seems so starkly simple from a plot perspective, but is absolutely so much more in every other way. I will stop there, but I want to talk more very soon. Okay, so can we get the slide back, Ari? Thank you. those are our thoughts. So as you know, before each live show, we host slow reading sessions on ONYX Pages. Here are some comments that your fellow journeyers made this time. Lauren's openness to new members to the group impresses me, given the dangerous world in which they find themselves. She has invited 6 people in during the last reading sprint, which was 45 minutes. So in 45 minutes of reading, she had invited 6 people into the community or to journey with her. If I were Lauren choosing who to trust, I would consider how they behave when they have power and how they behave when they're scared. And I'm thinking about the hints at what may have come if we had more books in the series before Octavia E. Butler passed. So those were some thoughts that came through during the slow reading sessions. Okay. So now we are going to split up into groups. And as you know, we're going to have 2 groups this time. One group is going to be with me on the YouTube chat. The other will be in a breakout group with Tati. So Ari, you just need to make one group and then send half of the folks over with Tati. So while we,
sorry.
Go ahead.
What we're going to do this time, if you do not want to have your face shown on YouTube, you can choose to take your camera off. Since the way that the YouTube show goes is if you are speaking, it will show you in the forefront, I believe. So if you're not comfortable being on camera on the internet, you are more than welcome to take your picture down, turn your camera off. That's the word. And you can still talk. You don't have to have your face on. That's how we're going to go with it, since there are 2 of us today.
And with the, I'm going to end the poll and I'll share the results while Ari is moving people into the groups. So the question, if Lauren Oya Olamina had the option to journey with another character from an Octavia E. Butler's book, one of her books, which character do you think she would prefer? 2 out of 16, 13% said I came from Xenogenesis. 3 out of 16, 19% said Dana from Kindred. 3 out of 16, 19% said Kira. Lilith, 6 out of 16, 38% from Xenogenesis, and Anyanwu, 2 out of 16, Anyanwu from Patterness. So I would have also thought she would choose a Lilith. And I'm really curious, maybe this is a question you could discuss in your groups. Why did you choose who you chose? And yeah, Lilith and Lauren. So you should get an option now to move into your groups. And Ari, just let me know when we're good to start here. Is everyone who's supposed to be here?
Yeah, but that's just, looks like it's just you and me, huh? Hold on a second.
Yeah, we have 15 people in room 1.
Sorry about that. Let me get some people back on here.
Okay. Hi, Gabby. Hi, Dr. VP. Nice to see your faces.
Hi, Jerry. Nice to see you.
Okay. So where do we begin? Why don't we just open chat for a bit? You've all read it or have revisited it or remember it and probably came with something to ask or something to say or something you wanted to hear or something you're feeling. So I'll just ask somebody to go first. And once you're finished sharing your question or contribution or whatever, please choose someone to go after you. And then once we finish that first round, I'll pick up on some of the things we've said or ask some questions of my own. So who wants to start?
I can start.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's Kiri, right? Like, I don't understand what the question is. There's only one answer.
And why?
There is this youthfulness and this counterculture need to push back against the establishment. Oh, yeah. I think that they are kindred spirits that could probably solve every problem in the world when they put their minds together.
Yeah. I really liked her. Who would you like to choose?
I want to see, let's see, Lisa.
Okay, well, I had chosen Dana from the Kindred, and I think because she was more real world like Lauren. She started off in California, but then ended up back with her on the ancestral plantation, and that especially when Bancoli was likening it, well, all along we had the debt slavery that was being talked about, that people were being enticed to, and there was that with Bancoli, there kind of seemed to be that same kind of calling back to the historic. So that's why I chose it. But I think, to much what Najeri was saying earlier, I think you could draw parallels with every single one of these. And what's great to me is they're all female and they're all the main character, and they're all making bold decisions and defending themselves and not helpless, on the train tracks waiting for Dudley Do Good. Is that who he is? The Royal Mounted Police? Whatever. You know who I mean. The guy in the red suit that comes and saves a lady who gets tied up on the train tracks. Anyway.
Never saved our ladies.
That would never happen to any of our female protagonists in any of hers. So anyway, that was my thought.
Do you want to choose somebody to go next?
Sure. I'll just go next to me. The next picture is Kavan. Did I say that right?
Sure, that works. Hi. So I'm not sure, in Jerry, right now, if we're responding to why we picked the character we picked, or if we're responding to anything. Okay. I'm struck on this reread of Parable of the Sower by two really prescient, as in for me, looking forward and to the future concerns. And one of them is the realization that I first read this, I discovered by looking at a receipt that I had tucked in while I was on a family retreat. What do we call it? Reunion. I was on a family reunion in Ocho Rios in 1995. That's what this receipt tells me. And that surprised me because I didn't know it had been that long ago. Although I never forgot the core of the story, I didn't remember enough of the details for it to be familiar when I reread it this time. And the other thing that, perhaps because it was associated with experience of family at that time, and because so much of that concept of family is evolving and changing in this book, I'm at the end of it feeling like, whatever choice I make about going forward, it probably needs to be one where I'm helping to build community. It probably needs to be one where I'm with those who love me and who I love, who I'd be willing to fight for. And I don't have a lot of clarity about immediate next moment steps or even next moment thoughts about where that goes. But today, that feels like that has to be the core of what choices I make. That's all. So let me go with Gabby.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I just read Parable of the Sower for the first time, I think last year, when I kind of slurped up all of Octavia's books last year. I'd had Kindred for many years, and just every time I would pick it up, I would think, I'm not sure I can read this right now, and I would put it back down. But I think I started with Parable of the Sower, and just my feeling about her is I just feel like she's such an inspiration. I hope that I could be somewhat like her if I ever had those challenges put before me. And I really, really admire so much about her. I mean, I just really, what Jerry was talking about, the way that she looks at people, the whole person, and the way she was able to, really think about like what everyone can give you, no matter who they are, no matter how different from you they are. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses, and how are they going to fit into, our community. And I just have really, she's an amazing person. And I love Octavia's vision with her. And that's kind of my main thing. I had picked Lilith to travel with her. I don't know how well they would have gotten along. They're both very strong characters. And I think Lilith as being, someone who was not very different from Lauren, in that she didn't pick herself. The Oncology picked her to be this leader, but she was so willing, she was able to take on that mantle and either feel comfortable with it in so many ways. And so that, in that sense, I thought they would be they would work well together, in facing a lot of controversy. That's all I'll say for now. I'll go to Connie.
Hi, I chose Lilith as well. I thought as characters and as people, they have similar qualities in different proportions. So they would probably not kill each other on the road. And they, Lilith likes walking, for one thing, we know that. And they also don't shy away from extreme situations or extreme experiences, which I think is really, it's really interesting in a main character, because you get drawn into situations that other characters wouldn't necessarily get into, which is kind of the basis of both of the books, actually. So that's why I chose Lilith. I think as a secondary choice, I think she would do well with Dana from Kindred as well. I don't think she'd do well with an Oncology. I don't think she'd be a person who could, easily lose herself. I think she'd be one of the resistor people. And I'm not sure if someone went before I joined the group, but I'll choose Maya if she hasn't gone already.
Hi, I'm Maya. I read Parable of the Sower in December, and I read the graphic novel. I just finished it last night. This read through in the graphic novel, I focused on the survival aspect that Lauren innately has, I guess. She is very interested on reading books about survival and being prepared for when things go wrong, because she does believe things are going to go wrong. She doesn't know when, but she's just like, I have a feeling something's going to go wrong sometime. So I focused on the survival aspect of the book, And because of that, I chose Anyanwu to travel with Lauren, just because Anyanwu is very resilient like Lauren is, and they're both very strong characters. Like strong as in like they're surviving what they're going through. They're going through very harsh situations, and they're both like pushing through. Um, and I think as far as survivability, Anyanwu, who is, basically like a healer, she would be able to help the community. And Lauren is all about, her community and what she can do for her community and how the community can build up to be stronger. So I think that Anyanwu would be a good addition to Earthseed. So that's why I chose her. Thank you. I will choose Ari. I think I said their name right.
Thanks for choosing me, but I have not read this book, so I have no thoughts or opinions.
Oh, okay.
I've started it. I got through like the first chapter and then.
Okay.
Everyone has gone. So thank you for that. I'm going to read some of the comments from the YouTube chat. So Kim says, I had two thoughts when I finished Parable. One, how different would the world be if we could actually feel the pain of others the way Lauren does, instead of saying we empathize? Two, I noticed that Lauren could feel physical pain, but I don't think it was mentioned if she could feel mental or emotional pain of others. And then I could have missed that part of the book because I was listening to the audiobook while yelling at video games. So let me know if this was part of the narrative and I missed it. And then Pretty Brown Eye Reader says, great thoughts, Kim. What Lauren feels does seem to be physical. So thank you for your comments, Kim, and Pretty Brown Eye Reader. So my question, there are a couple of things that came up that I wanna pick up on before we go to some other questions. Oh wait, there are also comments here in our Zoom. Okay, just reading backwards. With Ukraine heavy in my thoughts, the parables helped me with what it will take to survive. Regina Connie responded to transformative people. Kira was your second choice. Josh Dana was your first. You clearly need to catch up and read Xenogenesis now. Yeah, I would have chosen Lilith as well, just to put that out there, because I think they're practical in very similar ways. And I could see Lauren growing up to be a Lilith. And if Lauren is able to establish Earthseed, and if the Owen Collie come after the devastation, right, of humans, burning the entire planet, and I think they would look at Lauren and see the same kind of potential they saw when they looked at Lilith as a leader. So I certainly think that. I want to touch on some of the emotion that we see in the story, and I remember that there was one, I think, reference to Harriet Tubman in the book, and I think Bankole is speaking with Lilith, and one of them references the Underground Railroad. And I think about the stories about Harriet Tubman being very fierce, that if you're not here, like, we can't afford to be with people who are not going to fight for us and who are not going to fight for freedom. So if you are unsure, get out, because I will shoot you. I will shoot you if you act in a way that's going to impact the collective. And the collective is here to go to plantations and to free slaves. And if there's no half stepping, right? And there was a way that Harry struggled with Lauren's killing, and with Lauren, what he saw as Lauren's violence, what Lauren saw as survival in these circumstances. I think it was very interesting that Harry is a white man, and who was it? There's another male character, the other sharer, who joins says, who's that white guy? Why is he with us? Right. There's, you know, there is this really interesting dynamic there where Lauren, you know, is like, look, Harry, you've known me since I was a kid. You know my values, you know who I am, right? And he's like, I don't think I know you, right? He's trying to understand her. So I think there is something really powerful and raw about, you know, deciding who your people are and having to deal with the fact that your skin folk aren't always your kinfolk, and having to deal with the fact that, you know, Corey and the boys, she doesn't even know if they looked for her, right? They actually didn't turn back. She saw them run away, right? And so there was so much. Grace and Maura, thank you, Gabby. There was so much there to explore in terms of relationships and how we build community. A question that I have for you is, how would you compare and contrast Earthseed to Lauren's father's expression of like how he used religion in Robledo to be a unifying force in the community?
I haven't thought this through much, but it seems to me that the way religion was used by Lauren's father and the way religion is used in general is much more pacificatory. It pacifies people, it calms them, it soothes them, it gives them some reason to, or not reason, actually it isn't reason, it gives them a choice to have faith. It reminds them that they can choose to be faithful to a belief. And in Lauren's case, Earthseed, as she says initially, is not a religion. It is more like principles by which we can choose to live, because it is practical to do it this way, because it gives us not just a choice, but a path towards movement in the direction that we desire to go. I don't get that so much from the way in which we talk about religion. Religion is the way in which Lauren's father talked about it and the way in which we talk about it now. And I come from a very religious background. And just yesterday had the opportunity to experience a memorial for one of my uncles who had long been a stalwart pastor, elder, and all sorts of roles in a religious community. So I was reminded of that religious community and it's the way in which it formed me and the way in which I am no longer as engaged with it as it was forming me to be, which feels more like what Lauren's Earthseed community is doing in my world. It feels to me more like that's what nourishes me, even though I was also nourished by the reminder of the community from which I came. So I feel that distinction not exactly well defined, but it's a sense of the difference between how it feels to be in the space of religion as it was or as it has been, and what is not yet religion but may become religion as it is now.
Mm-hmm. I really like your emphasis on how it feels and also its purpose, right? I was struck by a couple of scenes, you know, where Lauren and her father would get into a fight, and then the father's next sermon was connected to what they fought about, right? And the father saying, like, there's this one part where he says, you can't scare people, you have to give them something they can use and teach them, right? Here's how you can approach what you're trying to accomplish. You can't scare people, you can't badger them with the truth. They have to feel like they can work with what you're giving them, right? And that one of my favorite scenes between the two of them is his response to her when Julia lies or betrays Lauren by telling her parents about the things that Lauren says. And Lauren sort of sitting there looking at her dad, I can imagine her sort of being like, Dad, seriously, come on, this is this is going to get worse. Don't sit here and punish me. This, I'm your daughter, right? Come on, right? We've got guns and this and that. You can't tell me that this is not going to happen, right? And I love that moment where he just kind of sighs really deeply, and it's just like, okay, what did you tell her? And it's really wrong of you to tell her, but also here's how to do it right. Like here's you're not totally wrong here, but your methods are a little brute. So I appreciate that. I appreciate those moments. And it seemed as though toward the end of the book, she was kind of thinking about her father and the ways that he did things and in the ways that she was thinking things. So when she was talking to Bankole about like, okay, maybe we could honor all of our dead, and maybe we could plant an acorn, and maybe we can say words, but they don't have to be biblical words. They can be like a poem or something. And do you think your ancestors would be okay with our ancestors being here too? Like you can still see her trying to figure it out, which is really great. What do others think about that, or anything else? Any question you'd like to ask, or something you'd like to share about what stuck out for you while reading the book?
I wanted to respond a little bit because I'm also a PK and can appreciate sort of where she's coming from and the differences you might have with a father who's a clergy person. And, I think she benefits greatly from being brought up by her father and understanding almost innately how to lead from watching her father lead. But I think she also takes caution from the things that she didn't like about how he led, and she is modifying her approach. The story that Nigeria just brought up in the beginning was really her naivete, right? Because she's young, and what she doesn't realize is that he's expecting all the same things that she is, and he's doing his best to get everybody prepared. And he thinks it's best, sort of in the old-fashioned paternalistic way of not letting people know too much. But in the more modern way of thinking, and with thinking about the constancy of change and rejecting a personhood as a god figure, she's really moving to the next step and kind of learning from her dad. So that's sort of my reaction. Thought I'd share. So
Thank you. PK, pastor's kid?
Yeah, preacher's kid. Yeah,
Preacher's kid. Okay.
I think she calls herself a PK at one point in there, and people taunt her because there's certain expectations that if you're a preacher's kid, right, you're going to be sort of extra goody two shoes or whatever, or you're extra holy, and you're like, no, I'm not. And I'm also an eldest daughter like she is. So, that means you don't rebel in the same way, right? Because you're responsible. So there was a lot that resonated to me with that character.
Got you. Sharana, I'm not sure if you're here, but any thoughts from you? I think you joined us a little bit after we got started.
I'm sorry for joining you. I got my times mixed up. I have not finished reading that book. I hadn't seen your series come across except for like a couple of weeks ago. And so that's when a week ago. And so that's when I kind of like started trying to read the book. So I'm coming into it late.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
You're totally fine. It's cool. I hope that listening to the discussion helps inform how you experience it as you continue to read. Regina.
Yeah, all this is so rich, and it reminds me of I am not someone who is religious. I grew up Catholic, and I think of Earthseed and religious texts as stories, right? And so there's reasons we tell stories. There's a wisdom to it. There's a psychology of persuasion as to why we tell stories. And I kind of see Earthseed and everything she's going through as she's developing her own wise text, and she's developing her own way of being and thinking and hieroglyphically writing this out. And it's so similar to a religious tenet, but it's not, because it's not used against you in that sense. It's just saying, here you go. This, do with it as you will, but learn from this so that you can go and be better. So I think of like when Ali, at one point, I think it was towards the end, she says, there you go, that Earthseed shit again, right? It's still this feeling of having the wise one, sitting at the wise one's feet and having to hear about it as to what works, what doesn't work. But this Earthseed doesn't feel as if it's badgering you. It's really relatable. And that is what I think is so powerful about this series, is that this is my fourth time reading it. I've used it to teach with, and you can just take from it and apply it in so many ways.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And she's shaping God, literally, right? Like she's doing it, and it drives her. And, you know, she says, I love it when people say, well, what's this all for? What, Mars? You're never going to Mars. And, you know, and her concepts of heaven, right? She's like, well, Mars is literally in the heavens, and it's a place we could go, literally. It's more literal than the heaven you've been dealing with. So like we could just, like, our destiny is among the stars, and how different is that from what you think anyway, right? I love, and I also loved how excited she got, like Grayson Moore, I think when he starts asking her questions, you know, he says, or maybe she says this about Zara, but there are a couple of people where she says, you know, they're persistent. I like that, you know, they're pushing me to think. And I keep on forgetting that she's 16, 17 when this is happening. Like there's a maturity to her that I know 17 and 16 and 15-year-olds have it. I absolutely know that. But it's just, it's shocking to me that that people follow her, and it's gratifying. And sometimes when I read Parable of the Sower, I Google pictures of 15-year-old Black girls just to like remind myself like what they look like and how young that is. And then I try to imagine that 15-year-old girl leading a group of people in an apocalypse to a new place, and them following her. And then I think about, you know, 15-year-old Black girls in North America and around the world right now, and how much Octavia E. Butler was telling us to listen to 15-year-old Black girls, listen to Black youth, because they notice and they have ideas and they can change the world. And I just find that really, really beautiful. I have some I want to comment from the chats here. So we have 10 more minutes. Wonder says, Christianity in this book felt more patriarchal and reactionary, giving targeted sermons after bad behavior. Yeah, with Keith. While like the shaming, while Earthseed seems to have a more horizontal power structure, community oriented, and focus more on action. Wonder, I want to return to this after we finish Parable of the Sower, because we see Earthseed differently, or we're offered Earthseed a little bit differently in that one. So yeah, I appreciate your comment here. And Alba says, it seemed to me that Lauren's dad also had modified his religious views according to the profound changes around them, i.e. the thou shalt not kill episode with Corey, right? Thoughts, and does anybody else have anything that they want to just add before I ask another question?
I was struck by how Lauren was tall and how she talked about the appreciation that she was perceived as female by, I forget who it was at some point. I think it was the couple that had the baby that they met on the beach, or maybe before the beach. They invited on the beach. Yeah, Natividad. Thank you, Gabby. And thinking about when we look at that picture of Octavia Butler and how tall and sort of what's the right word? You know, she's got less of a feminine look than you might expect of many young people. And I just wonder how much of that reflection that OEB is putting into the character of Lauren in many of the, you know, just to respond to you saying you're trying to imagine what somebody would have looked like who was her age. And I did, you know, because she does play up that being tall and dressing as a man because it's safer kind of thing, which is a common theme in many escape things, because being a woman out in the world is a very scary thing, especially when we've got all that terrible end of the world stuff, but even not during those times.
And I think, Gabby, I know you were gonna just say something as well. I think that it's important when we're talking about Octavia Butler's choices and about Lauren. Lauren's a Black girl, and so who is going to grow up to be a Black woman. And there is a very specific experience that Octavia Butler had when she was a teenager and trying to find work, and deciding whether or not, later in her adulthood, when she was trying to decide whether she was going to commit herself to writing. She worked in factories, she worked doing widget work, she went to temp offices to try and get jobs like Dana did in Kindred. And yeah, Octavia Butler is, you know, tall, Afro, I've never seen her in makeup in any of her photographs. And she was identified herself as an awkward child too, really super shy growing up, but yet had a stature that people would consider to be imposing. I thought that was really interesting. And while you're giving your comment, I'm gonna look for some pictures of Lauren Olamina from the graphic novel, because she does not look like what I expected in the graphic novel when they render her. So that's kind of interesting. Go ahead, Gabby.
I was thinking the one thing that she seemed to take from her father and his experience, or what he told her about, you know, kind of being a religious leader, or having, you know, being a leader, was whenever she introduced people to Earthseed, she always said, I gave them some comforting verses, some soft verses, some things that were easy to appreciate, to enjoy, to accept, and to then like let that be the lead in to, you know, what she said or what other people said. It's, you know, this is a hard belief system. There's nothing that you can hold on to that's going to pull you up from it other than yourself. And so that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Dr. VP, Maya, Regina, Connie.
I haven't read all of Octavia Butler's books yet. I just recently discovered her, so I'm going through all of them. And it was really interesting that you pointed out that the themes that she uses in certain books are represented in other books. So like I'm really excited to finish Parable of the Talents, to see the continuation of like Lauren's life and her family and her community and Earthseed. Reading Parable of the Sower and seeing Lauren interact with her father and his ideas of religion, but she doesn't quite agree, was very reminiscent of my childhood. Because my parents are very religious and I have been an atheist since childhood. So it was somebody on the comment that you were reading mentioned that her father was using the sermons kind of like they would have a fight, and then the next day he would use a sermon related to what they fought about. And it kind of felt like, I don't know, like punishment, like I don't know, public punishment, because he's giving the sermon in front of everybody and they're just sitting there knowing that it's about them. But so I think, I don't know, the religious aspect of Parable of the Sower is interesting because they give you her father's religious view and then they give you her view, which she kind of pulls away from religion. And I think Dr. Van Putten said that it was more about ways to live. Like you can live by these by earth seed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's interesting that Octavia Butler compared the two in her book. But that's all.
Thank you. We have a minute or two. I didn't find the picture I was looking for, but there's still time. Does anybody else want to add anything before we go into the main room? And is anybody interested in sharing a few thoughts that we discussed in this small group with a large group?
The cover of the graphic novel, I don't know if you have the front jacket. Yeah, like it shows that's like the best picture that they have of her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know, I'm so struck by it too. I remember when I got the graphic novel, I was like, oh, I never thought Lauren Olamina would look like this, and so it was very interesting to experience like this version of Lauren Olamina, right? And like nobody knows what she looks like except for Octavia E. Butler, right? So it helped me experience the story in a totally different way.
Page 62 has a picture of her talking to her father from like the knees up. And I think that might be a good picture. I'm not sure.
Oh, right. Yeah, thanks. So I hope you can see.
Is that her father? Because in the end, she calls him Frederick Douglass, right? She's like, she's got this image.
Yeah, that's
all right. Now I got to buy the graphic novel.
Yeah.
It's a different experience because they did change things, and like Najiri is saying, Lauren totally does not look how we're envisioning it. Like she shaved her head so she cut her hair so she could appear like a man, and like the character in the graphic novel continues to have like these long dreads or locks. So she just really did not look like how I envisioned.
You haven't finished the graphic novel, right?
No.
Okay, stay tuned.
Okay.
On that point. Okay, so thank you everybody for the discussion. I'll end with Alba's comment. It seemed to me that Lauren's dad also had modified his religious views according to, I already read that. Okay, so that's it. I think we're going to be taken back into the main room. A parting question for you: what would be in your ready sack? What would be in your ready sack if you had to run with Lauren, or to be ready for that? Thank you very much for your participation in the discussion. Ari, are people going to be coming back soon, or do we have more time to?
Yes.
Okay.
We've got about 30 seconds, but I just closed them, so yeah.
Okay, does anybody want to share some of what we talked about with the large group? I'm happy to do it, but also very happy for someone else to do it. Okay, I'll do it. All right. And
Does
thanks.
duct tape count? Can we put duct tape in our ready sack? Is that?
Of course.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Duct tape. Very good.
Yes. Very, very practical. How do you cut duct tape? Can you rip it?
Yeah.
You can? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I
It is
thought it had
magic.
little threads or something in it that
It
makes
does.
But it
But
does.
you rip in between the threads.
You can
Some
rip
of them are
between
like-
along. You can make
Yeah,
clothing.
yeah.
It
It's
is. Yeah.
good old Yankee ingenuity, and we use
There
it for everything in
is.
New England. Yeah, exactly.
Hi, welcome back, everybody. We were just talking about duct tape, with the question being, what would you have taken in your ready sack? All right. So, Tati, do you want to do a quick, debrief check-in?
Discussion was great. I say every time when Jerry and I have our debrief, every time I say I need to take notes on things that people say when we are in here, because I'm so enjoying the moment that it's kind of like G.I.G.O. garbage in, garbage out. But then after the fact, I start thinking about it. I was like, man, that was a good point. But we had a lot of discussion around us, in some ways, the community of what becomes Acorn, and the things that they have experienced going down the road. We talked a little bit about Keith and the family dynamic between Lauren and her other family members, and then also the comfort of Earthseed. There were some very good points that was shared in regards to Earthseed as not necessarily a religion, but just as a thought process, as a way to view things through as you're going from your day to day, particularly in the difficulties of this 2024 California Robledo situation. But also, period, there were some who found comfort in the teachings of Earthseed. Like, I don't know how to unchristianize it. Sorry.
You don't have to.
But yeah, that we had a very good discussion, and there was a lot of participation, which makes me happy.
Yeah, this was good. I like our size this time, because at one point there were 8 of us in the group, and at one point that's the amount of people that Lauren Olamina was walking along the road with, and we're now at 16, which is close to the number of the first seed population in Earthseed. So I'm just like, come through. Nature mirroring life. I love it. So that's super exciting. Our group was wonderful, and we had some great conversation comparing Earthseed to the religion of Lauren's father and its usefulness in the community, its purpose. We made comparisons between Lauren's stature as described in the prose book and as we see in the graphic novel, which some of us have read or are reading. We talked about we talked about what it means to sit with the core question of who would you journey with, and how important it is to journey with people who will literally fight for you, for your life, and who you will literally fight for. And I thought that was a really beautiful moment. We talked about how, Lauren is 15 when we meet her, and what it means for her to be a youth going through all of this, and for people to follow her as a girl, as a Black girl. And yeah, it was a really wonderful conversation. And I'm super excited about where we'll be when we talk about Parable of the Talents and what we learn as we continue on. So thank you to everybody who participated in the conversation. Does anybody want to share any thoughts that are still percolating, that need oxygen before we move on? Okay, awesome. All right, so thank you everybody for your conversations in the small groups. Please grab your books. We are going to take a group selfie. Okay, let me, yeah, thanks. And Ari, you're gonna take.
Yes, I got you. Alrighty. Everybody ready? Oh, this is great. 3, 2, 1. Oh, wait, sorry. Took it. Let me take one more. Wow, I got y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, it is sound circle time. Once again, we ask that you choose a 3 to 5 sentence excerpt from the book that you enjoyed or you felt was poignant. You're going to read, and then we're going to listen to others read. If you would like to chime in, just wait for a moment of silence. And what you're doing is just reading your excerpt. No commentary, no explanation. You start, you stop, and then the next one picks up.
So the sound circle's open.
Is it a sin against God to be poor? We're almost poor ourselves. There are fewer and fewer jobs among us, more of us being born, more kids growing up with nothing to look forward to. One way or another, we'll all be poor someday. The adults say things will get better, but they never have. How will God, my Father's God, behave towards us when we're poor?
Late today, we came within sight of the ocean. None of us have ever seen it before, and we had to go closer, look at it, camp within sight and sound and smell of it. Once we had decided to do that, we walked shoeless in the waves, pants legs rolled up. Sometimes we just stood and stared at it. The Pacific Ocean, the largest, deepest body of water on Earth, almost half a world of water. Yet, as it was, we couldn't drink any of it.
A victim of God may, through learning adaptation, become a shaper of God, or a victim of God may, through short-sightedness and fear, remain God's victim, God's plaything.
Still want me with you? I asked. Oh, yes, he said. I intend to marry you once we've settled. He managed to surprise me. I stared at him with my mouth open. A genuine spur-of-the-moment reaction, he said. I'll have to remember it. Will you marry me, by the way? Listen to me first. No more. Bring your church, bring your congregation. I doubt they care any more about the stars than I do, but bring them. I'd like them, and there's room for them if they would come.
Earthseed. I am Earthseed. Anyone can be. Someday, I think there will be a lot of us, and I think we'll have to seed ourselves further and further away from this dying place.
Poetry, he said this morning as he looked through the pages I showed him. Pages of my Earthseed notebook as it happened. I never knew you cared about poetry. A lot of it isn't very poetical, I said, but it's what I believe, and I've written it as well as I could. I showed him 4 verses in all, gentle, brief verses that might take hold of him without his realizing it, and live in his memory without his intending that they should. Bits of the Bible had done that to me, staying with me even after I stopped believing.
There is
Oh.
no There is no end to what a living world will demand of you.
All religions change. Think about the big ones. What do you think Christ would be these days? A Baptist, a Methodist, a Catholic? And the Buddha. Do you think he'd be a Buddhist now? What kind of Buddhism would he practice? He smiled. After all, if God has changed, surely Earthseed can change. And if it lasts, it will.
Kindness eases change.
I need to write about what I believe. I need to begin to put together the scattered verses that I've been writing about God since I was 12. Most of them aren't much good. They say what I need to say, but they don't say it very well. A few are the way they should be. They press on me too, like the two deaths. I try to hide in all the work there is to do here for the household, for my father's church, and for the school Corey keeps to teach the neighborhood kids. The truth is, I don't care about any of those things, but they keep me busy and make me tired, and most of the time I sleep without dreaming. And Dad beams when people tell him how smart and industrious I am.
All successful life is adaptable, opportunistic, tenacious, interconnected, and fecund. Understand this. Use it. Shape God.
In order to rise from its own ashes, a phoenix first must burn.
But if everyone could feel everyone else's pain, who would torture? Who would cause anyone unnecessary pain? I've never thought of my problem as something that might do some good before, but the way things are, I think it would help. I wish I could give it to people. Feeling that, I wish I could find other people who have it and live among them. Biological conscience is better than no conscience at all.
The destiny of Earthseed is to take root among the stars.
Civilization is to groups what intelligence is to individuals. It is a means of combining the intelligence of many to achieve ongoing group adaptation. Civilization, like intelligence, may serve well, serve adequately, or fail to serve its adaptive function. When civilization fails to serve, it must disintegrate unless it is acted upon by unifying internal or external forces. Earthseed, the Books of the Living.
Embrace diversity. Unite or be divided, robbed, ruled, killed by those who see you as prey. Embrace diversity or be destroyed. Earthseed, the Books of the Living.
We are Earthseed. We are flesh, self-aware, questing, problem-solving flesh. We are that aspect of Earth life best able to shape God knowingly. We are Earth life maturing, Earth life preparing to fall away from the parent world. We are Earth life preparing to take root in new ground, Earth life fulfilling its purpose, its promise, its destiny.
fires are illegal. You can see them flickering all over the hills, but they are illegal. Everything is so dry that there's always a danger of campfires getting away from people and taking out a community or two. It does happen. But people who have no homes will build fires. Even people like us who know what fire can do will build them. They give comfort, hot food, and a false sense of security.
We needed to resupply, but we didn't know whether we would be allowed to. Salinas had the look of a stay on the road type of town, the kind that wanted you gone by sundown unless you lived there. This week and last, we had run across a few little towns like that.
So we become the crew of a modern underground railroad, I said. Slavery again, even worse than my father thought, or at least sooner. He thought it would take a while.
Everyone who's surviving out here knows things that I need to know, I said. I'll watch them, I'll listen to them, I'll learn from them. If I don't, I'll be killed, and like I said, I intend to survive.
He lay down next to me and rubbed my arm, which tingled wherever he touched it. We should talk soon, he said. At least, I agreed.
When apparent stability disintegrates, as it must, God is change. People tend to give in to fear and depression, to need and greed. When no influence is strong enough to unify people, they divide. They struggle, one against one, group against group, for survival, position, power. They remember old hates and generate new ones. They create chaos and nurture it. They kill and kill and kill until they are exhausted and destroyed, until they are conquered by outside forces, or until one of them becomes a leader. Most will follow, or a tyrant. Most fear. Earthseed, Books of the Living.
Your teachers are all around you. All that you perceive, all that you experience, all that is given to you or taken from you, all that you love or hate, need or fear will teach you if you will learn. God is your first and your last teacher. God is your harshest teacher. Subtle, demanding, learn or die. Earthseed, the Books of the Living.
Any change may bear seeds of benefit. Seek them out. Any change may bear seeds of harm. Beware. God is infinitely malleable. God is change. Earthseed.
But I've never walked a freeway before today. I found the experience both fascinating and frightening. In some ways, the scene reminded me of an old film I once saw of a street in mid-20th century China. Walkers, bicyclers, people carrying, pulling, pushing loads of all kinds. But the freeway crowd is a heterogeneous mass, Black and white, Asian and Latin. Whole families are on the move with babies on backs or perched atop loads in carts, wagons, or bicycle baskets, sometimes along with an old or handicapped person. Other old, ill, or handicapped people are hobbled along as best they could with the help of sticks or fitter companions. Many were armed with sheathed knives, rifles, and of course, visible holstered handguns. The occasional passing cop paid no attention.
God isn't good or evil, doesn't favor you or hate you, and yet God is better partnered than fought. Your God doesn't care about you at all, Travis said. All the more reason to care about myself and others.
Earth seed cast on new ground must first perceive that it knows nothing.
If there were a few more of us, and if we were better armed, we might provide security in exchange for living room. We might also provide education plus reading and writing services to adult illiterates. There might be a market for that kind of thing. So many people, children, and adults are illiterate these days. We might be able to do it. Grow our own food, grow ourselves and our neighbors into something brand new, into Earthseed.
Changes. The galaxies move through space. The stars ignite, burn, age, cool, evolving. God is change. God prevails.
So today, we remembered the friends and the family members we've lost. We spoke our individual memories and quoted Bible passages, Earthseed verses, and bits of songs and poems that were favorites of the living or the dead. Then we buried our dead and we planted oak trees. Afterward, we sat together and talked and ate a meal and decided to call this place Acorn.
And that's the sound circle. Thank you everyone for participating once again and lending your voice to this. I think this was one, it's interesting, it's one of our longer ones. And I think it speaks to, how these words linger. So thank you, everyone. So Ari, if we could get the presentation again. Tati, it's you.
Our next book is Parable of the Talents, called to the new hard truth of Earthseed, the small community of the dispossessed that now surrounds Lauren Olamina looks to her, their leader, for guidance. But when the evil that has grown out of the ashes of human society destroys all she has built, the prophet is forced to choose between preserving her faith or her family. And that is the synopsis for our next book, Parable of the Talents, and the live chat, like we're having today, for that book will be Sunday, May 29th at 1 o'clock EST, 2022.
Once again, we will be doing some slow reading sessions. So if you like reading with other people and you are within the time zone that works, please feel free to join us over on ONYX Pages. There'll be 3 sessions like there have been for the past couple of reads, and we will be reading together, discussing in between the sprints. And it's a good way if you want to read in community to do so. So please feel free to join. If you subscribe to ONYX Pages, then you'll get notifications. But you'll also, as long as you register through the Eventbrite, you will receive the links to all of the slow reading sessions through your email about a week before they start. You will receive an email between now and the next one, and you will be asked to complete the survey. So please do that.
And if you would like to keep in touch between the live discussions, you can certainly register online on the Eventbrite for the slow read. That is the way that you will get the reminders for the live sessions, reading sprints, as well as the live. You can follow the Octavia E. Butler Slow Read on Instagram and Twitter. And you can also attend the slow reading sessions on Jerry's YouTube channel, ONYX Pages. And you can also use the hashtags when posting on social media on Instagram and Twitter. You can use either hashtag Read Octavia Slowly, hashtag OEB Read, or hashtag OEB Slow Read. And then we would like, is this me or you or us? We'll figure. Okay. We would like to know, this is where we are in the month of March. We have finished, and this is our discussion for Parable of the Sower. In May, we will be discussing Parable of the Talents. July, we will be discussing Blood Child, which is the short story collection. September, Fledgling, and then November, Unexpected Stories. And that is the end of our slow read. However, we've been on this journey together since March of 2020. And so we would like to, is that right?
July?
Or February?
July? I don't know, but 2020.
I don't know. What is time?
It's July, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, okay. There we go. July. I don't know time. But we would like to know from you all how you would like to end our journey together. Is there something that you would like to do to commemorate the conclusion of this reading and community experience? You can certainly let us know either through Twitter or Instagram, and of course, use the hashtags as well.
If you are not ready to go and you want to have some unscripted, unscheduled, chill out time, please, that's not going to be on live or recorded or anything, and you just want to chill. We are going to be around for about 20 minutes or so after we close today. So just hang back in the Zoom and we can have some informal discussion. And if you have questions about like the dates for sessions and stuff, we can clarify that after as well. But chill time will happen soon. So please feel free to stay. Oh, that's everything. Okay. That's it. So, so I want to thank everybody who is watching over YouTube. We have been following the chats. So thank you very much for participating. To those of you who are rewatching this, who were not at the live show, we hope that this was a really great conclusion to your read of Parable of the Sower, and hope that you join us again as we continue with the OEB slow read in the future. And thank you to everybody who came today and who got deep with Lauren, Oya, Olamina, and the crew as we continue this slow read. It continues to be a very special reading experience for me, and I hope for you. And when I think about how many people have come through, in total, we've had 2,047 people since the beginning of the slow read pass through in different ways. We've had over 24,000 views of the Eventbrite page. And so these are little seeds floating around. So thank you for being a part of this journey and continuing to. It's really special. Anything, Ari or Tati, before we end?
No, just thank you. Thank you all for participating. I've said it before and I'll say it again. This is something that I've always wanted to do, but if it were not for Jerry, I would not be participating in it in this capacity. So Thank you all so much for showing up every discussion and for contributing and for just making this enjoyable for us.
All right. So thanks to the people on YouTube. We are going to end the live now, and also we'll stop recording. So have a great rest of your day, and